I'm Elder Ricard Shiar along with Elder Lawyer, here with your weekly Sabbath lesson. As in the days of Noah. There's a lot going on in the earth right now, specifically here in Babylon, in America. And I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but right now, we're in the midst of what the Bible speaks of in Revelations 18 when it says, Babylon the Great, it's fallen, it's fallen. That's right, America is being dismantled on purpose before our eyes. And there's so many dynamics to this. There's the political dynamic that only the world can understand. But then there's the prophetic dynamic concerning the political landscape we're living under now. Christ spoke of these times and what to do. Okay? And I'm going to be going into that because it's eerily similar to exactly what happened before the flood, before the Most High began to prepare the righteous for total destruction on earth. Folks, we're in the days of Noah, the last days. And in order for these prophecies to come to pass, in which the Most High would eventually save his people out of this, a judgment must come to Babylon. And you and I, we all are living in the midst of it. So the question a lot of you might ask, living in these days, in this time, well, what am I to do? For me and my family understanding these times. Well, that's what the Sabbath lessons are for. So that we can prepare ourselves to go through Jacob's trouble. Okay? What I would like you all to do before we dive in is please hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything to do so. This way the traffic can be driven, or the algorithm could drive the traffic here so that everyone out there can hear a word on this blessed Sabbath. And I really appreciate you all for helping me with that, and help others who may not have gotten the notice without you doing so. All right. As in the days of Noah is our lesson today. Elder Lawyer, if you may, can you start off with the Hebrew credo?
Yes, sir.
The Shema.
Shema Yasha Allah Ahaya Allahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad.
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 Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one God, and his name is Ahaya. So, brothers and sisters, stick with us. We're going to go in 1 moment. 1 minute, we'll be going into the class. You got it. As the days of Noah. Hold tight. Down to like 69. Okay, jumping right in. Elder Lawyer going to join us back in one moment. First of all, I would like to say Shabbat Shalom to all our brothers and sisters worldwide. Right now, the earth is in a total, quote unquote, political lockdown. Okay? In preparation, the powers that be are preparing for war throughout the earth and have placed everyone in a posture for war using this apparatus called, y'all know the name of it, a code. Okay? But there's many other things that are going on prophetically outside of what the mainstream media has actually propagated through this campaign, this emergency. There's a lot going on that I'm going to show you today. Now, in particular, Christ himself, through the Holy Spirit, has awakened the children of Israel throughout the four corners of the earth in preparation for this. So the same way the powers that be on earth dealing in this realm is preparing people for war through this COVID campaign. That's what everyone is posturing for. And believe it, the majority of people would probably panic if they understand what the posturing is actually for. So this is a way that they can actually ease people into that's right, a wartime posture without panic. That's what this is. And at the same time they're doing that, the Most High is doing something with his people. Okay? It's the awakening. It's the preparing for the changing of guard. And at the same time, we must protect our families from the enemy who will soon look to engage the children of Israel. Okay, so I did start the program with I Hear Jacob Crying because a lot of our people are not going to fall on the right side of this. It's just like the days of Noah. Okay, and I have a lot to prepare. I have a lot to show you all today. Look on your screen real quick. Let's go to your screen. All right. You see, here's the word I wanted to deal with today concerning the spirit that have led the earth into degradation and wait for a judgment. The spirit of nihilist. And here's a reason why the whole earth have failed to sin in preparation for a judgment. The nihilists have been put in position, political, judicial, as well as administrative positions over the earth, which was a plan by the Freemasons. And I'm going to show you how this affects us, and it meets right in with what Christ said we must protect our women, men. We must protect our men, women, and children from the spirit of when they would put nihilist over our earth, over our people in high political and social positions. Nihilist. What is a nihilist? A nihilist is a person who believes that life is meaningless, and rejects all religious and moral principles. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in the Bible. They believe all things are relative, and thereby they live by their own moral compass. Okay? Which is subjective. You can sleep with who you want. You can live how you want. You can, whatever activity, it's the Aleister Crowley, do as thou wilt mentality. No one can judge me mentality. That's the mindset of a nihilist. These are the most dangerous people on earth. Okay? Now, under the psychology field, you would identify this as what? A malignant narcissist. And this is, you have to realize, brothers and sisters, this spirit has been created in the earth. It's been promoted in the earth. A malignant narcissist. Okay, where guess what? Their whole objective in the earth is self-satisfaction. And it doesn't matter how many people are harmed in the wake of them getting that satisfaction. That's the spirit that reared its head in the last days before the Most High flooded the earth. Because if you can get people with compromised morality, these are Satan's tools. These are his bots, his agents, his skeleton key to break and destroy all that's right. If he can put them in key positions. Some people started pushing back at me when I was talking, in just through a little sarcasm in some of my Wednesday broadcasts, speaking of the demonuts and saying stuff like that, feminanuts, and people started getting offended when I started pushing at that spirit. That's right. Feminism, women's rights, matriarchy over patriarchy. All of this does what? It promotes the spirit of nihilism, disorder. And only those who have been infected, I'm not going to say affected, infected by that spirit is offended. These are the people who don't want a moral line in the earth. These are the people that don't want standards set in protection of what? Our future generations. A nihilist. A person who believes that life is meaningless and rejects all religious and principles. That's why I had this up earlier. The Black Lives Matter movement is a Marxist movement. At the very end, Satan would infiltrate and use our people as the face in the earth. Listen, we would be the face of all that's wrong on purpose. And they would use our face and say this is a black movement to align all races of the earth against us and be justified for it. And be justified. Why? During the civil rights movement, that was a religious movement, folks, on every side. Be it Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, these were all religious leaders. But the powers that be could not come against us back then during the civil rights movement like they would have liked to. Why? Because we held the moral high ground. Okay? We were known for people who just wanted to be just like any other people, protected from assaults and being hung to serve our God in peace, to uphold the morality we had one amongst another. And because we were moral, not to say that we were all perfect, but as a people, we were religious people. And through that, the Most High allowed some level of protection spiritually for our people. So Satan couldn't do what he wanted to do in the 50s, the 60s, and all that. Because why? We held the moral high ground. How dare you come and After bringing us over here, putting us in slavery, having us deemed in your constitution 3/5 of a man. How dare you look to engage us to stop us from freely worshiping our God like you're able to. And we did it nonviolently. And we had the moral high ground. So they had to switch it up. They said, well, listen, we can't engage them because our PR is being totally destroyed over the earth when it comes to the humanitarian view of our country. Engaging people, innocent people, burning them in churches while they're in churches, worshiping the God. And we claim to have a country built on the values of the same God. We have to find a new way to engage these people. You know how? We must show the whole earth they're immoral. Give us the moral high ground. And now all the earth would agree with destroying them altogether. So we went from being conservative and righteous with a moral code to becoming liberal and didn't know the meaning of it. We thought liberal was justice against injustice. When liberal is do as thou will. Without what? Without anyone judging you for it. Liberal is evil. Liberal is evil. When we became liberal, that's right, the family, the black family, was totally decimated. It was a strategic political agenda to break the moral fibers of Judah in America. To totally destroy family, to take our woman from us. To take the man, that strong man, from the woman. Not that we were all perfect, but we were together. And thereby, through that, have the state raise our children. Anarchy, confusion, mental illness, all of this come into play because we allow them to infiltrate and turn the tables so that they can be the moral standard opposed to who we were in the 60s. Listen to what we're showing you here. They became the moral standard now. They sat back while we killed our own babies, knowing that it was murder. They sat back while we allow our children to have diseases and all that injected into their veins. They didn't do it. They set up the nihilist and those who would just sell their own people out for under the guise of capitalism, on the guise of, well, it's just my job. They allowed us to self-destruct, to harm each other. And instead of it being strong black men at the forefront of our movement, they put up nihilists, black lesbians, straight out. Not just a black woman, not even the example of a strong black woman. They put up abused lesbians and gays as our leaders. These are your new social leaders over all of the cities where our cities are totally dilapidated. No longer is there a black face, a strong religious face behind a movement led by a black man. I want you to read this. This was the plan of Albert Pike, 33-degree Mason. In his letters, Morals and Dogma, one thing that stood out When you get an opportunity, read Morals and Dogma. It's the plan of the 33-degree Masons to roll out Lucifer, who they worship, at the very end before Christ returns, as the true God the earth has been worshiping. And by doing so, folks, listen to this, folks, they would have to break the strength. We, as the children of Israel, even in ignorance, we were the children of Israel. But they would have to break the belief system that was solely within the black slaves, who had no one else. And because we had no one else, that's right, we had to depend on our God to get us through all of this. And Satan knew that if he didn't break that connection between us and our God that got us through slavery, that there's no way he could succeed this mission in setting up himself as the God on earth. He had to break the black man. He had to make the black man believe he no longer exists and have us become atheists and all that. And through that hedge that was over us in connection with us and our God moved away. There's no longer a hedge over us anymore. And now the armies are aligned right now in place to destroy the children of God. And if Christ don't save us through this, folks, none of us will be left. Now, I wanted to start it off with a short monologue so that we can actually set the stage for what this is. Elder Lawyer, I need you to read the quote. Now, this was a quote made in the late 1800s. Let's read it, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. It says, "We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist."
We shall unleash the nihilists, those who believe nothing. And the what?
And the atheist.
And the atheist. Now, you can usually find these people amongst what? Children who were abused. This is why under satanic initiations and all that, the abuse of children is a part of their fraternities, because these are the children they can use against the righteous. Moloch sacrifices, in which they would abuse children so that children can grow up with inordinate affection and hatred against God. Why would they hate God? Because they would say, well, how could there be a God who allowed the abuse that happened to me? So these people would grow with a hatred against the Almighty, not realizing it wasn't God who did that. It was these satanic priests sacrificing children to Moloch to sever out mental ill children to be used later against the righteous. See? This was their plan. How can you get a whole society, or a large segment, or 10% of the society become nihilists and atheists? With family, with a strong mother and father in position to protect them. You can't. You have to destroy the family unit first to get access to the children. And then that's when the abuse starts on a social level. This was the plan of the Freemasons in the late 1800s, folks. The Scottish Rite and the York Rite Freemasons. Read.
"We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm."
We shall provoke a what?
A great social cataclysm.
A great social cataclysm. Through us morally compromising the people, eventually the people will go against each other. It will be the government in control of the triggers on either side to have society fight one another. Read.
"We shall provoke a great social cataclysm, which in all its horrors will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism.
Absolute atheism, where the whole earth questions whether or not God exists. Are we not living in that time? Read.
The origins of savagery and of most bloody turmoil.
And of much bloody turmoil. They'll allow chaos to reign. They'll give chaos free reign. And you know they've accomplished this anytime people are tearing the whole country down and tearing the cities down, tearing down the businesses that patronizes them, that helps them. Only to have the media promote the anarchy, the destruction, the killing, the tearing down of businesses. Why would they allow this? And this was different this year than any other time since we have protested in America. Why did the media, who usually immediately call us looters and all these things, why did they immediately get behind the black people in this anarchy? Because they know how it looks on the outside of us. This is how the other nations were able to get the moral high ground, by letting all the other nations look and say, look at these animals. That's how they were looking at us. Whether we like how that feels and and whether we care how they think or not, it doesn't matter. This was their plan. And you can't tell me it was about George Floyd or another girl getting killed. Don't tell me it's about that crap, because no soon as the election was over, we didn't hear nothing of George Floyd again. It was a trigger to posture all nations against us, being led by some nut job radicals. And now our people, innocent people who had nothing to do with that, are going to have to pay the cost. Listen to what we're going to talk about today in the days of Noah. You don't know what we've aligned ourselves with, walking around with Black Lives Matter hats. Mm-hmm. You are against God if you stand with Black Lives Matter. It's not about Trump. It's not about any. You have to look at each individual you align yourself with. You have to understand this, man. These people that are over Black Lives Matter, these other organizations, have did more harm to black people than Donald Trump could ever imagine. Do your research. Now, why am I highlighting them in particular? Because the nihilists or the Freemasons, they had a plan on either side. They would need the radical and the ill-informed out of each race. Not just the blacks, but the whites too. The nut job liberal white people who make their money off of impoverished, underprivileged black people. That means if there's no poverty, there's no problem in black neighborhoods, these white people lose all of their future generations' wealth that came through quote unquote philanthropy. So these white nut job liberals need impoverished neighborhoods because they're over all the diversity organizations in our neighborhoods. So it's not just black people. They would also have a segment of the nut jobs they could trigger amongst the whites. Okay? So I'm giving you the full perspective here. And this plan was hatched by the Freemasons to bring forth what we are about to go through, folks. Military has already aligned themselves, not just in America, all around the earth. And part of their military strategic scenarios is how to navigate in the cities around what they've just witnessed during the election cycle. Black people running around with masks, breaking into all types of stuff. They weren't, and even white people joined in so that they, even if when we stopped, white people came in to make it even worse, and people wondered why. It wasn't just to blame black people. Okay? It was to fulfill this anarchy at its height, so that now when the military come in, they'll realize, okay, we must defend ourselves from these nut jobs that were on television for 3-4 months, ripping up their own neighborhoods and all the businesses within their communities. We must align ourselves against them. Read on. Right here.
Yes, sir. It says, we shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we will provoke, or we shall provoke, a great social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origins of savagery.
Savagery like animals.
And most bloody turmoil.
And most bloody turmoil. We done went from Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott, King. We talking about distinguished gentlemen, distinguished ladies with a moral compass within our communities, which were the standard. We done went from that to some nut job freaks leading protests for black people. And no one see anything wrong with that. No order, no end in sight for what we're really looking to achieve on the end of it. And no one even questioned that. Like, listen, I don't want to hear about a black man getting killed and all that. I'm a black man, and I don't want these people representing who we are. Okay? They can't align themselves with our plight. So don't try to use a black man when it's convenient for you to get some subsidies by the white social media and liberals, and then ignore us when it's not politically advantageous. So I don't want to hear that crap. I'm looking at who they're trying to align us with as our leaders. A lot of us should have looked at these people and say, these people are sketchy. Why are they trying to get us out on the street like this? Why are they all radical with no end in sight, with no true mission to why at the end of this, what are we going to achieve as a people at the end of this? There was no true plan. But was there? There was no plan amongst us. You just had political people looking like us, paid to cause anarchy. Mm-hmm. But to some other people, the plan worked excellently. Folks, to some other people, it worked to perfection. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. Then everywhere the people will be forced to defend themselves against the world's minority.
Hold on, where are you at?
I'll start again at then.
Then everywhere.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Just a little bit magnified.
Magnify it up.
Yes,
Hold
sir.
on.
Perfect.
Hold on. All right, let me make sure they can see it. That's better?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me move this here so they can. All right, go ahead, Elder Lawyer. Then everywhere.
Then everywhere the people will be forced to defend themselves against the world minority of the world revolutionaries, and will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from that moment without direction and leadership.
Without direction and leadership. So they would need to switch the social churches that once produced for its community. So what do? They brought in the Jesuits to hire black prosperity preachers to destroy the community churches. Why? Because it was the community churches, that's right, during the time of the civil rights movement under Martin Luther King, that had the whole earth watching at once during that march on Washington in the 60s. It wasn't no mega churches. It was community churches being led from the grassroots, opposing injustices all around the world. They say, no, we can't have that. So at the very end, we must send in our Jesuits and our theologians along with our apologists to change the direction of churches, because these churches are too strong within the community. We must set up, we take the pimps off the corners and put them in the churches, destroy the churches, and then have the mega churches lead all the financially good and educated of their people from amongst their communities. Right? Albert Pike. Read it.
It says, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from that moment without direction and leadership.
Without direction and leadership. Now, mind you, before that, it says that the people will be forced to defend themselves against the world minority of the world. Who are the minorities? So when they see nut jobs tearing things up, you have other races of people doing what? Taking up arms, preparing themselves against that segment of the population to defend themselves against them. This was their plan. On one side, you have people being promoted on the news as crazies, radicals, nut jobs like the Black Lives Matter folks. Then they show black people breaking in stuff, running over each other like animals. They showing this so that the other side can do what? Say, listen, when food is taken, when there's no water, when the water systems are shut down, we're going to need to take up arms to protect our families against them. When you get a chance, I need you all to go past a gun range outside of your city. Okay? And what you see, sometimes I go there just to check things out. And guess what? You see parents bringing their children for what? For gun practice. And I'm talking about teenagers. I've seen a father with teenage sons. One was 10. One was like 13 and another one was like 17. Even the young little girls in middle school are at the target places. Practicing with practice rounds. I'm seeing this with my own eyes. And I'm like, you know what? This is exactly what Albert Pike's plan was, the Freemasons. Because anyone in their right mind in this current climate would understand it's time to defend themselves. Okay? There's no protections under the Constitution no more, folks. We're in civil war right now. This is soft civil war. And the other nations have aligned themselves militarily against our communities based on this nut job stuff they did during this election. Come on.
Then everywhere, people will be forced to defend themselves against the world minority of the world revolutionaries and will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from that moment without direction and leadership.
So as you can see, their aim was to cause what? Unbelief. Why? Because the belief in God and Christ is what? Is the hedge and weapon. We dealing with spiritual warfare here. 33-degree Masons are straight Luciferians, folks. And they understand they can only oppose us or engage us so much if we're morally sound, if we're righteous, if God is on our side. So they had to break that barrier first, which is the spiritual barrier, which is really the strongest barrier. See? So when they broke through that, where there was no more belief in do as thou will and have sex with whoever you will, everyone have an app on their phone to commit adultery, to sin, to do whatever. Once they broke that, hey, when you don't have your God to protect you, guess what? Lucifer and his agents can have full reign against you and your children. So it was about breaking down the spiritual barrier first. Come on.
It says, disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from that moment without direction and leadership and anxious for an ideal, but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view.
Hold that for one moment. So those who used to believe in the Bible, those who used to believe in Christ, will now witness a degradation of the earth and begin to blame God for it. And say, well, my upbringing being Christian or believing in God, well, that must not be the way. I need to look into alternative religious beliefs. That was the plan. That was the plan. To take us off that rock, which was once Christ. Now you have people, I see our own people who their family were 5, 6 generation Christians. Right off the boat, they were Christians. And now you see these same people who are saying, well, listen, I'm into New Age religion. I'm a Buddhist. I'm this. I'm that. That was the plan. Buddhist is ancient Japhetic Babylonian, is a Babylonian religion. Islam, Babylonian religion. New Age, Babylonian religion. That means if you're not standing on Christ, anything outside of that is Babylonian. That was the plan. Satan knew that his greatest spiritual opposers at the end would be those who believe in Christ. And he needed them off the battlefield. Are you sure? I'm breaking it down now. Let's end this, and I'm going into the Bible. Let's go, other lawyer.
Yes, sir. It says, the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer brought finally out into public view. Into public view.
It's to a point now where we don't have to, cobble around the edges anymore. Chew around the edges concerning our true belief. A matter of fact, let's roll out a series called Lucifer and see how much opposition we get publicly. Now, I know when I was growing up, they had to do it soft. They have to have stuff like Bewitched, where the father was fighting against the witch growing up. I don't know if I'm telling my age. My mother and father used to have this on TV, where the father, who was a general in the army or something, was fighting against the witch and say, you can't be using that stuff because you're going to, you're going to get in the way of of my Christian Judeo beliefs. I need you to keep that stuff. I love you, but you have to keep that stuff undercover. Don't use your witchcraft. When I was coming up, it was soft. Right? Where you had Bewitched or Sabrina, her daughter, and stuff like that. But now they just came straight out with it. You couldn't have had, when I was growing up, there's no way you could have had a series called Lucifer and got away with it. Not at the same time they were promoting Little House on the Prairie, The Waltons, all Christian-based family programs that were on for many seasons. Because why? There was still some traditional, wholesome values and belief in God left that we could both relate to, whether you were black or white. There's no way they could have rolled out a series called Lucifer that could have stayed on past 3 episodes, let alone 2, 3 seasons. So they said, okay, let me throw out the series Lucifer and see how it takes. And people started chiming in, talking about, he's cute. You had people online talking about, yeah, man, I can see myself getting with the devil.
As you speak.
Yeah.
Someone sent this to me yesterday. This is a commercial.
You kidding me?
For Match.com. I'm not sure if you'll be able to show it here, but I don't know if you want to just show the cell phone or what.
Go ahead. What is it?
It's basically a commercial of a woman, the woman symbolizing the year 2020, meeting Satan and them coming together and having a relationship.
Let's see if I can get it on here.
Type in Satan commercial match.
Hold on. Satan commercial.
Commercial. Yep. Right there at the top.
Right here?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me?
Please. Call me 2020.
Fair use.
So where are you from?
Who?
Me too.
You kidding me? Fair use.
Just don't want this year to end.
Yo. He said, I just don't want this year to end. What, the year that they've had everyone locked up over some bogus code?
Right.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Go ahead, other way.
It goes into exactly what Albert Pike was stating and what we were just reading about them now bringing Lucifer, bringing Satan out to the forefront for everybody to embrace. And that's really what this whole thing, this whole 2020 thing, this COVID thing, that's what it's all been about. But you're about to say something. You're right.
Man.
Just the point that it says here, will receive the true light. And it says through a pure doctrine of Lucifer, part of the doctrine of Satanists is that mask ritual and all that.
Yeah,
So
and that exactly
Right.
Because that day of inviting the dead into the earth is Halloween, when everyone is wearing a mask. Well, suppose you are wearing a mask the whole year. You are a part of the yearly initiation into accepting Lucifer. That's what these masks are for.
That's right.
Let's read the end.
Yes, sir. It says
a manifestation.
A manifestation which will result from a generational or a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity.
So they're looking to destroy Christianity. Why? They can't use Christianity anymore because we're teaching the truth concerning Christ and its true mission. So when Satan can no longer use it, okay, now that the people have awakened, there's no use for it because guess what? The real Luciferians knew that they were worshiping him the whole time under the guise or cloud of Christianity. See? But when they can no longer use it, using Romans and white people and all that, and the ideology that all people are the same regardless and all that, once we were able to tear down that lie, they had no more use for Christianity. That's why they say it now, you can't gather. Why? Because you're not gathering for me. That's what's going on. That's what he's saying. Wear a mask. Get initiated into the Luciferian. That's right. Ball. I'm inviting you into my Palace. My world. This is what the Freemasons have been preparing the world for. See? All the mask and all that. That's esoteric, folks. Usually it's once a year where people wear masks. And that's a Celtic satanic celebration of Samhain in which what? The dead comes into the earth. And the wizards and the sorcerers align themselves spiritually with the dead. That's the religion of Samhain. Now suppose he can get the whole earth to do it all at once for a year. It's an introduction into Luciferianism. The earth will never be the same, and it's not going back to the way it was. As in the days of Noah is where we are. Mm-hmm. Read it at the very end.
Yes, sir. A manifestation which will result from a general reactionary moment, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Did you hear what it said? It said general reactionary thing. So something general that happens to the public,